everyone has the budget to go out and buy great gaming mice from manufacturers like Logitech and Razer. However, gamers still want a mouse that's A, comfortable, and B, feels like their own, which is a feeling that's satisfied by RGB LEDs most of the time. However, with great gaming mice being at above $50, which is expensive for some people, I decided to breathe some life into an old gaming mouse of mine. Not everyone is willing to pull apart their mouse just to give it a fresh coat of paint. To some people that's a scary prospect and they don't want to break their mouse, but these days it's really not hard to pull a mouse apart. There's usually only a couple of screws and everything else comes apart quite easily. In this case, this mouse only had 2 screws holding it together, and once I had taken the top half off, all the side buttons and extra segments came apart, which allowed me to paint them individually. My biggest issue with cheap gaming mice are the RGB LEDs that cycle through the rainbow but the user has no control over, so it's fake RGB. Because of this, I just decided to cut out those LEDs that were on the circuit board. I just cut the heads of the LEDs off and the mouse was working fine. Next up is sanding the shell. Because the body of the mouse is plastic, you do want to be sanding it beforehand so the primer attaches properly. Make sure that you wipe the mouse down before you apply the primer, as all the dust particles will get stuck on the primer and then cause it to peel, which then looks horrendous. On to the priming. The only brand of spray paint I will recommend is Rust-Oleum. It's more expensive than the cheap brands, but the cheap brands often bring out really crappy results, so you want to invest in at least some half-decent spray paint like Rust-Oleum. I used a white primer, as you can see on the mouse, and did a few coats. Now I rushed the last coat of the primer and the first coat of the base paint, which was black. That's what I believe caused the cracked effect that you can see on the mouse now. Because this cracked texture was very likely to flake, I used some clear gloss and just went over that with a few coats just to make sure it wasn't going to peel in future after use. The texture is still somewhat rough, but I personally like how that feels, and also it's something unique to my mouse now. After all this, it's just a case of reassembling the mouse. Just putting all the extra mouse buttons back in and screwing it all together. It's not hard to do. All in all, this was a fun project. I didn't need to do this. I have a mouse that's perfectly capable now, and this mouse is going to be delegated to being my secondary mouse, but this gave it a second life in essence, because it was in a state that I didn't really want to use it, and now it's in a much better condition that extends the lifespan of the mouse and also gives me a backup. So yeah, if you enjoyed, please give it a like. If you want to see more content like this, subscribe over there. And if you have something else you want me to do, or some feedback for this video, please just leave it in the comments below.